Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. The backlash has finally started in the cabinet, in Boris Johnson's cabinet. Jacob Rees-Mogg has finally come out to robustly and directly criticize Rishi Sunak, blame the economy that's been destroyed on him because he is the high tax chancellor. And this interview that he did, because until now, Jacob Rees-Mogg has been very quiet, very polite, a team player in the cabinet. That's why he got a lot of criticisms in the past. But now he's coming out to actually talk about Rishi Sunak as Chancellor.
Because what I think is interesting is where the country is going from here. We are facing, internationally, the greatest crisis in relation to inflation. And I'm afraid the Treasury has not been tackling that properly. It has not been focusing on the inflationary issue. It has not taken charge of quantitative easing,
so you
which
blame
it agreed.
Rishi Sunak for that?
I think Rishi Sunak was not a successful Chancellor. He was a
Absolutely spot on, because we have a problem in this country where the Treasury, people at the top of Treasury, civil servants, have always been an obstacle. For the past few decades, they have their own agenda. So you have to either have a Chancellor who is brave enough to challenge the establishment or actually be able to completely change the whole narrative. Now, when you have someone like Rishi Sunak who lied to his constituency, lied to his local party, local association in the Tory party, and to the membership of the Conservative Party, generally speaking, for years, pretending to be a Thatcherite. But in reality, he is, as Jacob Rees-Mogg is about to say, a high-tax chancellor.
Sunak was not a successful Chancellor. He was a high-tax Chancellor, and he was a Chancellor who was not alert to the inflationary problem.
Because he's the only man, according to the polls, who could beat Starmer.
Well, that's mainly to do with name recognition.
Right.
I mean, that is spot on, though, because it's not, again, it's classic. Channel 4, they go with what they're just seeing on the surface, in the mainstream media, in their own bubble. And, of course, Rishi Sunak is getting all the establishment Tory members and MPs backing him to make sure that he is definitely the top two and is a front runner. Doesn't mean that the country loves him. Doesn't mean that he's able to beat Keir Starmer. The red wall will go down if Rishi Sunak is Tory leader.
But I think the Treasury has been a real difficulty in the last couple of years.
So you want tax cuts?
I think the tax rises we have had have been ill thought through. That I think the raise in corporation tax, which is proposed for next year, was clearly a mistake.
That's the thing. I mean, we've had all these policies, and Rishi Sunak, I said this yesterday as well. Boris Johnson, when Rishi Sunak resigned a few days ago, he said, now I can do tax cuts. He blamed it on Rishi Sunak, saying that me as Prime Minister, I'm finally free to do it, even though he was already in charge. Now Rishi Sunak's come out to launch his campaign and say that, well, now I'm free to actually do what I want. So one of them is lying. Clearly, one of them is lying, unless both of them are lying, because you can't just blame the other one for saying, well, I only became a high-tax government because of this one, and then the other one saying it's because of the Prime Minister. It makes no sense.
What we need is to have public spending under control, and we need to have a fiscal policy that will help bear down on inflation alongside a monetary policy that does that. I think that is fundamental, and we will need to see that set out by the people who throw their hat into the ring.
Tax cuts will...
That's the thing. Okay, before this idiot continues to talk about how tax cuts are bad and we need to raise taxes to make more money, which doesn't really make sense economically. But, you know, of course, if you're a 12-year-old studying economics at LSE, yeah, maybe you're an idiot. But in reality, that's not how economics works. But the problem here is that Jacob Rees-Mogg, over the last couple of days, rumors came out that he was considering to run. Hasn't really announced anything, so I'm guessing he's not going to run. Even if he does, he will withdraw. He will be backing someone like either Suella Braverman until she goes down, or Liz Truss. We don't really know exactly what's going on, but Kemi Badenoch is also the massive underdog who's going to be running as well. But let's go to this question because it's about how tax cuts are so bad.
Throw their hat into the ring.
Tax cuts will mean the deficit goes up.
Not necessarily. If you bear in mind that the cut in corporation tax led to an over 50% increase in the revenue from corporation tax. So if you get your tax policy right, it can be pro-growth and pro-revenues.
I mean, it's spot on, because one of the main things that we have, and that the Tories have been so terrible at this for the past few years, is having someone to actually explain things in plain language, in English, and in a very, very robust way. The way Jacob Rees-Mogg explained that in the past, under the previous government, where with David Cameron, we actually cut corporation tax and we increased the revenue for HMRC. But until now, usually Tories come out and say that. They just stop there. But Jacob Rees-Mogg added something to it. He said, you just need to make sure that the tax policy is the right time, the right place. Whether it's a tax cut, do it the right time, right place. Even if it's a tax increase short term for some sort of crisis, then make sure you don't really just go crazy Keynesian or socialist. It doesn't really help the economy. And this is why Rishi Sunak, I have no faith. He's going to come out, he's going to announce his platform. It's sort of like what Boris Johnson did, the empty promises. And he's standing on a platform of strong and stable, basically. He's saying that he's a serious candidate for serious times. Where did we hear that from last time? Oh yeah, Jeremy Hunt. We do not want a serious candidate for serious times. We need a vision. We need a visionary who's going to do reforms. We need someone radical. We need 1979. We need Maggie. We need someone to actually completely shake up the system because it doesn't really work. Let me know in the comment section. You might disagree with me anyway, but we're going to have a conversation on this for the past few days and weeks and months or decades until Boris Johnson actually resigns. Subscribe to the channel. I'm Tousi and we are the media.